Well, did you notice that there was a little something in that intro, a little trigger mechanism for all you folks out there who got radicalized. Just a little, it was about this big and this wide. Full disclosure, I also like Kung Pao. And oh, by the way, I might have made a little visit across the Pacific to our friends in China. I may or may not have been to China. Full disclosure, I love Kung Pao. That does not mean I have Chinese secrets on my laptop because I am not technically proficient enough to hide those. If I had Chinese secrets on my laptop, it would be in a folder on the desktop that said Chinese secrets. That's all I know how to do. I don't have the file structure savvy to be an espionage guy. My tradecraft sucks. The white hand has been painted on the parish house wall. Your altar boy is dead, and the Peace Corps moved out. I love it here. I just can't go back. For those of you who don't know, that is a line from Salvador with James Woods, who was nominated for an Academy Award for that role. If you're a photographer and you haven't seen Salvador, hang on. If you haven't seen Salvador, you're a loser, to put it mildly. No, it's a great movie. If you haven't read the script on its own, read the script. And it is so painfully simple that it makes you think that you can do it. And then you try to do it, and what you end up with sounds like a Ricky Schroeder Hallmark after school special. Before Ricky Schroeder was like yelling at Walmart employees, but like that old Ricky Schroeder thing, like that. You know, as a kid, you'd get home from school and go straight to the bathroom. And then after you came out of the bathroom, you'd be like, okay, I'm gonna eat something. I'm gonna eat my face off. And then you turn on the TV and it was like 3 channels, the click, click, click channels. And it was like Popeye cartoons. And there was always some GD after school movie that just suck. They all suck. So I've got a lot to cover. This is the second time today I did this film. I did it before, and I have to say, I was on a roll. I was kicking ass. And the problem was that unbeknownst to me, somehow I had switched up some settings in my trusty, whatever this is, XH2S, and it had defaulted to program mode, and the electronic shutter was flashing. So I did the entire film, and I put it into Premiere, and I was like, what? It looked like deep, dark, Danish, deep house dub music with a flashing light in the background. And that was not what I was after, and I had to redo the whole film. So what did I do? I went online and just trashed Fuji, which is what you're supposed to do anytime something goes wrong. No, actually, I didn't. I reached out to a friend at Fuji who was very helpful and got back and said, look, try X, Y, and Z. And then I actually figured it out on my own. This could be the first time ever that I figured out a technical problem with a camera on my own. So, by the way, what aperture am I at? Hey, 1.4. I paid for it. So, let's take a look at this. Maybe it'll focus. This is yet another broken watch in a long, long lineage of broken watches that dates back to my middle school era. I have got a great, funny story for you that I'm going to save because I have a new watch coming on Friday, and I want to show you what I bought and why, but also tell you this lineage of destruction that I have in my past because something happened with my wife's watch after I borrowed it, and it's great. It really is great. By the way, there's a little distortion in here. I don't live in a fun house, but I would if I had that opportunity, but I don't. So there's a few things here. This is technically a Q&A, but I seem to be drifting away from straight Q&As and really just it's me rambling more than anything else. This is a filler. It is 100% filler film. Someone reached out today in Santa Fe and said, dude, I haven't seen you in a long time. I thought you'd gone off the radar. What happened? As many of you know, C-19, bike crash, snapped ribs, concussion, stomach bug, all in about a 10-day period. So yeah, I was not necessarily that productive. During that time, I did do some birding with my niece, which was kind of fun. In between moments of literally Usain Bolt sprints to the bathroom, which I got pretty good at, by the way, which is a great skill to have, regardless of who you are, where you are. But here's the thing. I mentioned a couple of weeks ago that I was looking to sort of revamp my online life, maybe potentially moving away from so much time on YouTube to a subscriber model for the videos, a paid newsletter, those kind of things. But I was working out the details as to what I would offer you that would be of value enough for you to pay. That's a big issue for me is I want you to feel like, man, I can't believe I'm getting this. So what I came up with is complicated, kind of, but what I'm trying to do is make it as least complicated as possible. And I think I got an idea what I'm going to do for the newsletter and also for the subscriber service. And it's all going to be, at least initially, based around a new project. And I'm going to do a separate film on the project itself. But in essence, it's a project based around 2 books. One is a field guide, and one is a book that was a blurb book done by a designer in Australia about 10 years ago. And I literally kept this book for 10 years. I absolutely love this book. It's completely atypical. It's the only one like it that I've seen. And somehow in the last 2 weeks, I lost it. I literally lost it. It's the only blurb book I think I've ever lost, unless it was stolen at the last event I did, which is a possibility because people steal books all the time at these shows. So it's based on these 2 books. And the idea is, this is a project that's going to take every single skill I have as a documentarian. There's going to be writing, there's going to be illustration, photography, copy, and the book itself will be undefinable. You will not be able to say, is that a photo book? Is that a book of illustrations? Is that a wordy book? Whatever. It's not going to fit any category. But the idea behind the newsletter and the new subscriber thing is to basically take you along from the conception of the project, how it came to be, what it's based on, and then through the subsequent shoots. There'll be specific items that will be designated for the newsletter and specific items that will be designated for the subscriber video site, and then I'll put trailers on YouTube and that kind of thing. That's the tentative plan as of now. The one problem I have is on the busyness scale. If blurb was, let's say that this was the busyness scale of blurb during COVID, and then pre-COVID, blurb was like this. It was even past the 90-degree axis. It was over here. Chaos, full-time travel, all the time. Now we're about here. But blurb's ramped up. We got some super cool programs. I'm going to be in New York April 22, 23-ish. For a contest winner, long story. Also going to do a photo walk, sort of meetup kind of thing. So if you're in the New York or tri-state area, heck, I don't care if you come from Maine. I don't even care if you come from the Great White North. You cross that Canadian border and come down. Yeah, Canada, get off your ass, It's just quit sitting around making fun of us down here. And yeah, you may want to wear your flak jacket when you come down, but whatever. So I'll be in New York. I've got a bunch of blurb trips coming up. We have a bunch of new campaigns that I'm working on. So I've actually gotten quite busier than I was a few short months ago. I definitely need a haircut. Look at this. You talk about a bad heroin day. Holy moly, let's go right back to the cap. What do you say? So there's a lot going on. The problem I have with this project, not the problem, the reality that's sad because all I can think about is starting and working on this project, is I've got a little bit of a window between now and the beginning of May, and then I will not be able to work on this again until September. And that's really frustrating because it's a project that's 100% based in New Mexico, which is a really important part of the project, and a lesson that I really wanted to get across to people is finding something that's in your backyard. It will take me to every far corner of this state, every far reach of this state, tons of places I haven't been. It will incorporate multiple parallel themes that are running through it, and all of this will be shared in detail. Some of you aren't going to care, you're not interested in this at all, you're doing your own thing, whereas other people have asked me about this stuff for a long time. And for me, it's a blast to share it all because these projects are complicated sometimes, and this one is complicated by my own doing, but it's also something that I'm very much looking forward to getting started on. So I'll do a separate film. I've got some work from the project already that I can share, little snippets, and it should be fun. So I got a lot of stuff to work out. But this, damn it, is supposed to be a Q&A, and at least my camera's not flashing, strobing anymore. Flashing may be the wrong term, because that can mean all kinds of different things that are maybe not necessarily what you want to see on this film. This was like strobing, and I figured it out, all by myself. This is a great story. Yep, it's dead. Chronographs fail first, then solar, then mechanical. But they all fail, my friends, they all fail. The first 2 questions on this are not photo related, which is fantastic because I'm interested in a million things outside of photography. I've had 2 conversations today with friends who I love these people. I love them. I said to both of them, you're always welcome at my house. I don't even have to be here. You're always welcome. But they're geeks. They want to geek out on the equipment stuff. And I'm in the middle of like 10 things trying to say like, man, I don't care. I just don't care. Just put it on program and hit the road. So the first question is someone asked me about climate change. I do not like that term, climate change. We have become so radicalized politically, and I'm just going to talk about America in general. we're so radicalized now that the words climate change means this horrible trench dug, line in the sand dug. It's on, you're on your side, we're on our side, however it is. It's useless, ridiculous, waste time. And so it's the issue of climate change in America has been politicized. So I think personally that we as humans have zero chance of solving climate change. I just don't think it's possible. All of the data that I see, that I seek out in regards to climate science, all of the data is what I would call awful coming back at us. And I hate to be such an optimist, but it doesn't look good. And the thing is, for me, it's a pretty basic equation. We have an exploding population growth, we have diminishing resources, and we have a horrendous global education system. That does not bode well for the future. If you throw in things like the acidification of the ocean, once the ocean hits a certain level of acidity and plankton starts to die, whoa, things are going to tip really fast. I just don't see humans having the capability to stop climate change. When I see these climate summits of world leaders, these are old people who are wealthed out of ever having to worry about financial issues in their life. They are old, they will be dead before the music starts, and there's no vested interest and no profit in them to work to try to solve climate change. We have lobby groups in America like the auto industry and the oil and gas industry. They are incredibly well-designed, powerful lobby groups that really control both parties of the American political system. They both have their hands in the kitty. They're both taking money from oil and gas and the auto lobby. And that is a really hard thing to crack. I see occasional glimmers of hope about climate change, but most of the time, I just don't see everyday people, including myself. I'm not pointing a finger at everybody else and saying that I'm some sort of climate saint, even though you might want to believe so, because I am so goddamn cool. But do people really want to change their life? If I said to you, look, no more vacations flying abroad. Your vacations are going to have to be within bicycle distance of your house or in your own state or whatever. You're going to be like, no, I want to go to Paris. I don't care. Get rid of your refrigerator. No, use your bicycle instead of your car. I can't. No, I don't want to do that. That's not going to work on a global scale. I just don't see us being able to tip back what's already happened. And the climate is not going to turn. The climate is like the Queen Mary, the ship for those of you uninitiated. If you're in the Queen Mary going full steam ahead and someone says, hey dude, hang a right, you cut power, turn the wheel, that ship goes straight for about a mile before it starts to turn. And that's kind of what climate change is about. It's not going to reverse itself anytime soon. And I just cannot see us as a collective getting it together to address this. So I don't know what that means in terms of when we hit that tipping point and how bad and how fast it's going to go downhill. But I think it's going to be pretty fast. So I'm not a big believer in the fact that we think by using a recyclable bag at the grocery store that that's going to tip climate change. And by the way, I do use reusable bags at the store, but you know why? Because behind that door is my wife. I'm not afraid of the planet. I'm afraid of her. And then when I come home from the store with plastic bags from like whatever Safeway, it's like someone opened the door, they threw in a Wolverine, and then they locked all the doors and windows and said, good luck, Milner. That's what she's like when I bring home a plastic bag from the store. Am I afraid of the planet? No. Am I afraid of climate change? No. Am I afraid that one day I'm just going to go and there's not going to be any more air? No. I'm just afraid of the wrath of Khan of my wife coming in with a bag from the store. So maybe fear is a way to get through climate change. I don't know. I just don't see, maybe somebody out there can illuminate this for me in a better way, but I just don't see it. I mean, I think people are more interested in getting the new iPhone than they are trying to fix the planet. Sorry. Again, I'm just such an optimist. Question number 2, I see your salsa has flat pedals. How do you feel about clips? So for those of you who don't know about cycling, years and years and years and years go by. We go from the bikes with the big front tire and the little tiny rear tire to like normal looking bikes. And then we love to learn to steal bikes. That's a whole separate story. But we developed something called clipless pedals. So your shoe has a cleat on the bottom and the pedal has another cleat and your shoe locks into this cleat on the pedal. And it really allows you to use and gain power from the full pedal stroke. In my opinion, far better than a flat pedal. Not that I'm against flat pedals. The first day I bought My clipless pedals was 1990 in Austin, Texas on my Gary Fisher Aquila mountain bike that was at least 2 sizes too large. Because at the time when you bought a mountain bike, you went in and you stepped over the crossbar and your taint hit the top bar. And when your taint hit the top bar, the guy at the store was like, that's the perfect size. And that's what you bought. And that's an idiotic thing because that means the bike's like at least 2 sizes too big. But that's what I did. And I bought this thing and I got clipless pedals and I'm like, I'm cool, I'm hot. I had the mullet. I had like Crisco on for the deep tan as I was riding around Austin. And I got to a left turn intersection and I forgot to unclip and proceeded to fall over, which is what everybody does when they get clips. I fell over and somehow managed to pin myself under the bike in the middle of the left turn lane at like a 6-lane road in Austin. Now, the thought about Texas is that, oh, everybody's friendly. And when I was a kid in Texas, that was true. Everyone was friendly. They were. Now Texas is aggressive. I just came back from there. People are rude and pushy and they crazy drivers. And I saw 2 road rage incidents that were unbelievable that I thought there was going to be shots fired. So that's modern Texas. So I fall over and instead of like somebody pulling up and saying, hey, partner, let me help you up, they pulled up, rolled down the window and said, get out of the road, you jackass. And so that was in 1990, which means I love clipless pedals. The pedals on my Salsa are both. They are flats on one side and they're clips on the other. They're made by Crank Brothers. I really like these pedals. It's the first time I've used a pedal that's both clip and flat because I normally just run clips. I run Shimano SPD pedals, but now I've gone to the Crank Brothers and I really like them because the Salsa is my only bike outside of the Brompton. So I am going to be using the Salsa for a ton of things. And also I've got this new fancy pair of sandals made by Bedrock, which for some reason have taken off in the gravel cycling world. They're like the hipster gravel cycling pedal. That's irrelevant because the sandals are fantastic. They are the best sandals I've ever had in terms of like functionality and comfort. However, if you want to infuriate and really send into a apocalyptic rage any male who is insecure, wear these sandals, because they will set off rednecks in a way that I've never encountered before. They're awesome as a triggering mechanism. So in addition to being a great sandal, they infuriate all those necks out there who don't want to wear girly shoes, but they're great. And so I will be using this Salsa for all these things, and I need pedals that work for both. And thank you. On to question number 3. I landed on Leica Q for a project, but I'm taking a second camera with a 50, but also want to shoot some film. You see where this is going. 4 cameras on a 5-day shoot. No, no, and no. If you go on a shoot with 4 cameras, a 5-day shoot with 4 cameras, I will drive to your house and hook kick you in the neck because that is a monumentally bad idea. All the way around. All across the board. You simply cannot make good work doing that. I'm sorry, you can't. You can make crap that you put on YouTube and try to get views. You can make content that you put on Instagram and want to act cool in front of everybody. You cannot make a cohesive photo essay with 4 cameras in 5 days. I don't care who you are. There's no one on the planet who can do that. Take it from me because for years I did something equally as stupid, which was I traveled and did projects with 2 Leicas, film Leicas, 35 and 50, and a Hasselblad with color. And I tried to do that. Now, the reason I took 2 Leicas and 2 lenses is because, easy now, easy people. The reason is because Leicas break. They break. Get over it. They break. The clutches go out. The rewind crank comes loose. You drop it and ding the rewind crank, the little rewind thing. It breaks, it dings, they break. I'm sorry, I've broken every Leica I think I've ever had except for the M4. And that was totally rebuilt for me when I first bought it by Leica, so it was almost like new when I got it back. So, but every other camera, the M4P, the M6s, they all broke, so get over it. And so I wouldn't often use both of the Leicas at the same time, but I would leave one in the room as a backup. And then I would shoot color in the Hasselblad because 6x6 color in a blad, you can literally shoot anything and it looks good. Anything, it looks good. Your feet, your hand in the window, and you're like, I'm a genius. It's horrible, it's stupid, and it was a really bad idea. I don't like most of the photography I see where the photographer's trying to wear more than one hat at a time. If you're looking to make cohesive work, do not carry multiple formats. Do not carry color in black and white. Just do one thing. It's hard enough to make good, consistent work with one medium, and then when you throw in a second medium, the degree of difficulty is exponentially higher. And if you're not doing this every single day of your life, then you're just not good enough to do that. And frankly, I don't think a lot of people who are doing this every day of their life are good enough to do it. I think that color 6.6 is a crutch for a lot of people. I know it was certainly a crutch for me. The black and white is much, much, much harder to produce good work. In 2023, 35 millimeter black and white film is a really hard sell because it just doesn't look exotic. You know, it just looks, I'm not saying I don't like it. I actually love that look. I like it with a 50 and a roll of Tri-X is my favorite thing in the world. But it's hard when you're trying to sell a facade of being a photographer, other than if you're trying to sell the film angle to a bunch of geeks who don't matter because they're not in the industry anyway. Okay then. Still dead. Still dead. You're gonna love this story, I'm telling you. Okay, so this is about, question number 4 is somebody wrote me about, I was talking about image manipulation, journalism, editing, and they said, blah, blah, blah. The National Press Photographers Association Code of Ethics states editing should maintain the integrity of the photographic image's content and context. So my question is, where's that line between the two? Did this translate to basically having to get everything right in camera so the photos could be handed off to the editor to determine what makes it into the story being printed? Yes. Yes, everything is done in camera. You don't go back to the newspaper and Photoshop your images. That doesn't work. You can tweak a file. All digital files need to be tweaked, right? It's that mid-tone bump. You could sharpen it if you want. You set a white point, your color balance. I'm not talking about that. That's where it stops. If you're Photoshopping images for a newspaper, you're gonna get fired. And the names and faces running through my head right now of photographers who got caught doing this, one of whom, who I kind of knew but not very well, he got fired while he was in the war zone. He's like on the front lines, and they text him and they're like, "You're out." So yeah, it's a big deal. But here's the thing: for those of you haters out there, and for those of you who say there's no such thing as truth or journalism or math, science, truth, fact, you know, the anti-climate people, whatever. Those people tend to flip over and also get on the political side and say that there is no journalism and everything is biased kind of thing. It's not true. So there is something that's again, it's a carrot for them. It's a caveat. So technically, if I'm the photographer in the field and I make images, and I make any kind of edit of those images, even culling those, these are the top 10 selects, that's putting a bias on those pictures, technically, because there's others I could have chosen, but I didn't, I chose those. Then it goes to the photo editor. And then it may go to the AME, the assistant managing editor. And then it may go to the editor. So if it's a really important story, maybe it goes through 4 layers of people editing. Technically, if you're a hater, you could say, well, that's, you know what? Those are all biases because all you guys are whatever, liberals. You're liberals, let's get them. Whatever. You can always find a hole in this, right? But the idea is the editors are looking for pictures that have the most impact, that tell the story. And often with a newspaper, you get one image total. So you've got to get something that encapsulates, but also resonates. And that's where good editors come in. I really wish, and this is really sad for a lot of folks out there, the 99.9% of you who are watching this right now are never going to be in a position to work with an editor on a daily basis, someone who edits pictures full-time picture editor. Most of the time, full-time picture editors were not photographers. They weren't people that photographed. All they did was edit. And their skill level was so far beyond the average professional photographer, which is why there was a position called picture editor in the first place, that being able to work with them on a daily basis, year after year after year, makes you such a better photographer to see how that work is tiled together, positioned, and interpreted. It's why we have full-time picture book editors, people who do nothing but edit picture books. We have people who do sequence. We have people who do design. There's a reason why these are all separate professional fields. I was fortunate enough to, at the very beginning of my career, to get 3 years with a full-time picture editor. It was great, changed my life, changed my photography career because they were so much better at it than I was, and I learned a ton for them. So what else is this person asking for? You mentioned a crucial aspect, no manipulation, dodging burning. Again, you can tweak a file. You can run a process, mid-tone, sharpen, white point, right? But it's when you start Photoshopping, like, this picture'd be a lot better if that guy in the bicycle in the background, I don't know, maybe had an RPG in his hand. I'll just throw that in there. Yeah, it's the middle of Topeka, but I don't know, maybe some kid has an RPG. That's when you get in trouble. That's not journalism anymore. That's called art, people. Damn it. Okay, where are we? I'm just gonna, he's talking about, the next question is about the flow of an assignment, from assignment to print. And that's a tricky question to answer, like what's the flow of an assignment to print? Because a newspaper assignment, an editorial assignment, and a commercial assignment are very different. From a newspaper, I walked in the morning and there was a little mesh metal folder, a little basket that had stacks of paper in it, and each one of those represented an assignment. There was no research, really. There was no time for that. You got it, went out to your car, and started knocking these things off one at a time. They all had the time, the location, the reporter, the person who assigned it, and who the person was that you needed to get that work to later in the day. And then also like a brief description, but the descriptions oftentimes were useless. And remember, every reporter wants to assign a photographer all the time because they think if there's art assigned to the story, they have a better chance of getting on A1 or B1 or C1. So they'd assign stuff that's not visual at all, that should have never had a photographer assigned to it, and yet here we are. City council meeting in a windowless room with a bunch of people sitting around a table. It sucks. There's no reason to be there. They don't want you there. You got fluorescent light. It's awful. It's horrible. It makes you question everything, and except for climate change, which is fake, not real, by the way. And then you knock these assignments out. You come back, and it's all, the newspaper's about speed. You got to come back, process, make a scan, write a caption. You get any of that stuff wrong, you're in deep trouble. You get a caption wrong, you spell a name wrong, that's fireable offense. So it's pressure, but you get sort of addicted to the pressure. Magazine assignments are a little different. You don't walk in and there's a basket, you get a call or an email. Hey, this is our project, we've got you in mind, and you work out the details, you go on the assignment. It's typically a lot slower. You often get way more time on an assignment, those kind of things. Commercial is very different. Commercial can come from a variety of different ways. It could come through your agent, your agency. You might be dealing with an art director, an art buyer. You might be dealing with an agency person or a combination of all them and the client. And then they're gonna ask for a bid. You have to bid on the job. Bidding is going away from what I hear because this is pathetic, but this is true. So I had an agent friend in LA, and she would call me from time to time and say, okay, this is the parameters of the job, what would you bid? And I would look at the parameters of the job and bid, and then we would laugh because she would go, clients, if you even bid now, they look at you as an inconvenience because there's so many photographers out there that'll take any job for any price that the clients view bidding as a hassle. And so low-end commercial work, that's how it works now. It's a free-for-all. The quality doesn't matter. People, it sucks and they don't care. They're not original, they're not unique, they're just trying to do what they've already seen, they're trying to do it for as least money as possible. They'll give cameras to people in the brand and say, you're good enough to go shoot this yourself. The high-end commercial is still really interesting because there's great work being made, great photographers, great campaigns. They're spending real money. They're hiring people who are doing unique and original work. And those are, these are jobs that at times are 7-figure jobs. And those take a lot of practice and planning. Those often involve, the agent and the photographer. They could involve the agency, the art buyer, the art director, the clients. These are like big production meetings. Then you will often have a budget that will cover both the creative fee and the logistics. So what kind of crew do you need? Do you need catering, hair and makeup? How many production people do you need? How much rental equipment do you have? These are incredibly complex logistical nightmares, and I hate it, and I never want to do it again, which is why I stopped doing commercial work. I don't like shoots with more people behind the camera than in front. And it just wasn't fun for me, even though the money is pretty staggering. So you can make really good money. I had a photographer in Los Angeles approach me unsolicited. She was very successful commercial photographer, what I would call wildly successful commercial photographer, and also an independent photographer that publishes books every year. She's a whirlwind, remarkable person, but also very reclusive. I did not know her, and she just approached me unsolicited and said, here's the name of everybody in my crew. I really like your work, and you should be doing more of this commercial stuff, which is what got me down that road in the beginning. And then I just had so many nightmare negotiations, and it just wasn't fun, and I stopped doing it. But that's kind of how that work works. And I don't ever want to work for anyone with a camera ever again. Does that sound overtly positive too? Did I leave any wiggle room in there? Because there is no wiggle room. I don't want to do it. I don't want to know what your job is. I don't want to shoot for a brand. I don't want to do magazine assignments. I definitely don't do newspaper assignments. I could make more money with a ski mask and a screwdriver knocking off the local 7-Eleven than I could making newspaper photography. But yeah, just not my thing anymore, but that's kind of how those logistics work. Last question. I am so happy I solved the flicker. I was just about to run at top speed into the wall to knock myself out because I was like, how does this always happen to me? I didn't change anything. I sat down and it just didn't work. Damn it. Last question is, have I read any of the new Cormac McCarthy books? And the answer is no. Only because I have a massive reading queue already and it's just not a priority for me. I love Cormac McCarthy. I think Blood Meridian is the high art. That is the masterpiece of his reading list. It's the first book of the Border trilogy. I think No Country for Old Men is also a fantastic book. And I think the Coen brothers did a fantastic job with the script in particular on that, but I like those two stories. Blood Meridian, though, to me is in a class by itself. But I've got a bunch of bird books I'm reading. I just finished Season on the Wind, or Living on the Wind by Whedon Saul. Amazing book, fantastic. If you're a birder, that should be a must book. I'm just about to start the book Enigma about Alan Turing, which is like 1,000 pages or something. That looks like a neck punch. But I'm fascinated by that story and by that guy in particular. And I've got a whole bunch of other books I have to read, including I need to start reading a bit more on Lebanon because I'm teaching a workshop there in 2024. And I just need to know more about the place and the people and the history. I know a little bit, and the war in Beirut in the early 80s was one of the things that really got me into photography in the first place. So, and I had friends that covered that war and have done a lot of conversations with them about the culture and the people and sort of current events. But I need to know a lot more. And I think that's it. What am I leaving out? Something. I know I'm leaving something out. Just can't quite figure out what that would be. I don't know. It doesn't matter. Quit wasting time here. Quit watching my channel and go do something good for the love of crap.